everyone. We are still in Rome. Thanks for joining me on this view through my archives of the trip I made around Italy back in 2017. This is just a little bit of park next to the Castello San Angelo. It's not a very good image, and it's not a very interesting one either. I've obviously just thought I'll take a picture of some leading lines and then not compose it properly because we've got a big clump on the left hand side, which is just another line that leads to nothing with a bin. Just the trees block most of the image. This is crap, isn't it? Jeez. One thing I will say, on the last video, I stupidly kept saying that I'd shot everything on hectare. It wasn't hectare. I checked afterwards. It was a roll of Portra 400. This is also a roll of Portra 400. I have no idea why I thought I'd shot hectare, so apologies there. I kept going on about the lovely colours that hectare brings up, and realised it wasn't even a roll of hectare that was responsible for all of those colours. So sorry about that. There is a correction in the video, I believe, but if you didn't notice it, whoops. Yeah, this is for Kodak Portra 400. This is not a very good image. It's of a park that's next to the Castello San Angelo, and I've managed to compose it wrong and get it underexposed, and there's just trees in the way and everything. So yeah, good start. Here is a statue of the Emperor Hadrian. I assume he's there because the Castello San Angelo was originally a tomb built for him to be buried in. He's kind of one of the famous emperors that actually, I think, were classed as kind of good emperors rather than the ones who went mad and murdered everyone. I'm sure he murdered loads of people as well, because that's what Roman emperors did. So yeah, there we go. It says Imperium Cesare Hadriano. So yeah, there you go. It's Hadrian. It's a statue of him. I have no idea if this is original. It probably isn't. It's probably just a modern-ish copy that was probably put up in the 19th century or something. I have no idea. But yeah, that's what it is. I've got a thing about taking photos of statues. You've probably noticed in previous videos if you've been watching them. I think this is an okay shot. At least he's central. At least he's nicely composed. He's flanked by these trees on either side that don't detract too much from the image, and the base and the actual statue of itself is all in focus, and you can read things on this, and the exposure is pretty good. So I think this is an okay one. It's not exactly the most interesting of images. It's a photograph of a statue. You've taken a photograph of one, then you've taken a photograph of them all, really, haven't you? Unless they're really weird ones. But this isn't exactly a weird one. It's a Roman emperor saying hello, basically. Yay, hand up. So yeah, this is okay. This is awful. This is a photograph of the Vatican. Let's start with a few things. I've tried to squish too much into an image. It's not worked. The lens is not designed for taking wide shots, or shots that would be better on a wide lens than this, but it's a Yashica D TLR, and it does not have a interchangeable lens. It's got a fixed lens. It is, I believe, 80 millimeters, 75 or 80 millimeters, which is the equivalent of about 50 in 35 millimeter format, but it's a medium format TLR, so that's its focal length. It's more designed for generic photographs and or portraits, I would say, but I use it not for that. I have got better at knowing its capabilities. Here I clearly didn't know its capabilities, so yeah, we've squished too much in. As you can see as well, that obelisk looks like it's leaning backwards because of the way I've tried to squish so much in. I'm kind of crouched down looking upwards, so it's sort of leaning back, that kind of effect, and it doesn't look very good. Yeah, this is bloody awful, really, isn't it? This is not as bad as the last one, I suppose. Again, we're in the main square there of St. Peter's, right by the Vatican. I've obviously tried to take a picture of those kind of repeating columns in the background there. I'm pretty sure every single one is like a statue of like a pope that's on the top of them. They go on forever. It's huge. It's a massive area, big circular area that's enclosed by these kind of column things. As you can see, plenty of tourists around. Even despite the cold weather and the time of year, there was still plenty of tourists hanging around. In fact, the queue to get into the Vatican was absolutely mental. So long. I have been in there before, so I didn't queue. When I went a few years before this, we queued for an hour and a half to 2 hours just to get in. So I wasn't going to queue again just to see the same things I have seen before. So instead, I went there to take some photographs and just have a wander around. Later on, I ended up going to a different area, actually, that I'd never been before. So we're going to get some photos of those that are pretty interesting, I think. But yeah, this is just an image of the Vatican itself. This image was taken quite a bit later from the last one, after a very, very long walk up a very, very steep hill. I have absolutely no idea what part of Rome I am in here. All I know is that I'm on the other side of the river and I am up on top of a massive hill. I think that's some sort of monument in the background, possibly to the commune of Rome that existed for a short period of time in the mid 19th century. Kind of very famous kind of period of Italian history with Garibaldi fighting the French and fighting against the Pope and all that kind of thing to essentially create a commune within Rome itself. The attempt by Garibaldi to kind of unite the Italian nation, all that kind of thing, which didn't happen for a good few decades afterwards then, eventually. So yeah, I've done my usual thing of seeing some trees repeating and thinking that'll make a nice photograph, and I guess it does, but it's just not particularly interesting, is it? It's just some trees, it's just a road, and it's just some nice coloured leaves, really. There's nothing of interest in this particular one, unfortunately. If there was something central in the image it was leading towards, then great, but instead it seems to be leading towards a car that's coming towards me. So, yeah, not particularly exciting, this one. This one's quite nice, mainly because it is a view of Rome that I don't think a lot of people tend to see, because this isn't a tourist area that I've gone to here. This is not a place that a lot of people go to. Certainly not tourists anyway, and certainly not the time of year I was there. There was obviously people up there, a few people, but not many. Not many at all. So this is a view down from the top of the hill that I was on over the city itself. I think out of all the major sites, you can't really see an awful lot of them, except to the right there, see the white building to the very far right of the image, the sort of towers over everything around it. That is a very famous monument that's not too far from the Colosseum. I cannot for the life of me remember what it's called, but it's a massive modernist monument that's that's there, not too far from the Forum and the Colosseum. I think this is a pretty nice vista of the city. As usual, I've managed to get things in the way because there's loads of trees by here, so we've got dark underexposed trees in the foreground all over the bottom of the image and covering the left, annoyingly, but at least the sky is nice and at least it's a vaguely interesting shot of something. Okay, so there was absolutely tons of these little statues of people's faces and heads all the way along, sort of here. Absolutely tons. I'm talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. I believe they are statues to, I think, every single person who died fighting with Garibaldi during the Commune of Rome, I think. Don't quote me on that. Look that up if you want to be sure. But I think that's what they are. Again, loads of repetitiveness, trees repeating, nice colours, etc., blah 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 blah. Other than that, it's not particularly interesting. It's just a bunch of pictures of statues and stuff. And if it wasn't for a particular subject like that history that I'm interested in, then I probably wouldn't have taken this image. It's not exactly something that's going to interest other people, I would have thought. Yeah, we've got another picture of the kind of view of Rome, looking from another angle. I have no idea what any of these buildings are. That might be the Castel San Angelo in the really far distance, sort of to the centre left, but I am not entirely sure. Yet again, I've managed to get trees in the way. There's this annoying bit of branch that's sticking out on the left-hand side. That's infuriating. At least some on the right-hand side are a little bit exposed because of the way the shadows have fallen. But yeah, I think the first photograph of the view is probably better than this one. Here we have another photograph of the river. I really, really like these photographs I've taken of the river. This one, I think you can see a little bit better of reflections and stuff. I think this was the day after the first lot that I took, so the river is not as choppy as before. You can see it looks pretty much like glass, to be perfectly honest, by there. So you can see the reflections of the trees on the left-hand side, all the colours and everything in the actual water there. Again, leading lines of rivers. I love the kind of thing. It's like a natural kind of road that just leads your eyes through the image. into the distance. Very nice colours as always. Very nice bright blue sky reflected in the bright blue water. That splotch on the top right, I think, is a problem on the emulsion. I think there was something off on the emulsion of the film, because that wasn't on my lens. I don't know what that is, but that's what I think. Anyway, I think this one is really, really nice. I really, really like this one. A little bit of street photography stuff, I guess. Unfortunately, the guy's facing away from me because I'm stupid and stood in the wrong place. But yeah, this guy was singing opera in the middle of the piazza that was in front of the Pantheon. That's the Pantheon to the left. I have not taken a photograph of the Pantheon, and you will not see a photograph of the Pantheon, purely because this camera cannot take a photograph of it. It is too enclosed, it's too narrow, it's too squished in, and it would look bloody awful. So I genuinely tried to. I tried to stand as far back as I possibly could, and I just could not get enough of it in to give it justice. It would just cut things off, so I just gave up in the end. But yeah, this guy was singing opera, so I stood around and took a photograph of him, because, I mean, he's an interesting looking guy, isn't he? He was there for ages. Some guy randomly came up to him and started singing with him like an old fella. Chucked him a load of money and then just started singing along with him, which was pretty cool. Yeah, usual kind of thing. You go anywhere in Rome and there's people doing entertainment stuff for the tourists, and looking to make a quick buck, that kind of thing. Yeah. And we finish here on a photograph that isn't taken in Rome. This is actually taken the next day. So I took a train to a little town quite a bit away from Rome, actually. It took about 40 minutes or so, I think, to get there. One thing I will say, the train journey was really, really nice. It follows like an aqueduct pretty much all the way, and it looks so cool. Just seeing all this, like, just ruins in the countryside looks so cool. But yeah, this is Massimiliano. He is the guy from Bomb Cameras, if you've ever heard of them. He hand builds large format film cameras, which is pretty amazing. Yeah, I said I was coming to Italy, and if anybody was around, they wanted to hang out, and he answered me on a film photography Facebook group, I think, if I remember. Yeah, I went to his house and basically just watched him build a camera, which was really, really interesting. All done by hand, all wood as well, a lot of it. So it's like sanding wood down and making it by hand. It was really, really, really interesting. Really, really nice guy. Lovely, lovely guy. So yeah, we watched him do that, and then we kind of hung out and went and took some photographs in a few places afterwards, and I spent the day with him. So yeah, this is the image we're going to finish on. Is this gentleman here.